Good coaching is asking questions. Mentorship is giving answers. We should be asking questions of those that we're coaching to help them to think different and act independent of us in our absence. Should you be a coach? I don't know. I think it's a great question. I think it's one that we all need to explore, especially if we've achieved some level of success and proficiency in something. My formula for coaching is passion plus purpose plus proficiency equals profits. If you're passionate about something, it's purposeful for your life and others' lives, and you become proficient at it, then it's probably going to turn into profits. And the profit sector will probably be coaching. And this came up at a recent event that we did. My partner and I, we hosted this challenge it was the Buy Back Your Time challenge for business owners, business coaches, consultants, and freelancers who were either aspiring to have coaching programs, that were maybe doing 10 to 20K in their coaching programs to learn how to get to six figures. But the essence of it was showing people different distribution methods of their coaching programs, products or services, but getting down to the core of really what a coach is, right? And somebody there asked a question that I thought was just absolutely profound. That question was, you know what? I won't even call it a question. It was more of a statement. And the statement was this. The guy said, I've always felt like coaching wasn't a business. And now that I'm here this week, I'm understanding that it is. And I said, well, I agree with you. I think coaching isn't a business. Coaching is a calling that, when done properly, fits within the infrastructure of business. But the predominant piece of becoming a coach is identifying the fact that it's a calling. Coaching is a calling. And I know many people out there call themselves coaches, life coaches, business coaches, marriage coaches, you name it, right? Fitness coaches. I challenge everybody who deems themselves as a coach to ask themselves some very specific questions. Now, I'm going to give you all about a handful of these questions on this pod today, because in order to be an effective coach, you got to first explore your heart as to why you will go out and do this thing called coaching. Just because you're great at something don't mean you should coach. We see that all the time with professional athletes, the Jordans of the world. It didn't work for the Kobe's. Had he been here and became a coach at a higher level, probably wouldn't have worked. I think he had a certain level of compassion and empathy, because it was not only women's basketball, but his daughter was a part of that team as well. Typically, great players aren't great coaches. Are they proficient? Certainly. But is it a part of their purpose? Probably not, which is why it don't work. So one of the first questions that I believe we need to ask ourselves if we want to call ourselves coaches is, are we willing to give all the knowledge and insights and wisdom freely, even if that means that those or impart this information with may exceed us in production in whatever area? Hey, real quick, are you operating at a level 10 in your life? Do you want to? I'm talking about a level 10 in your finances, a level 10 in your health and wellness, a level 10 in your marriage and your family life. Like excelling in every single area that's important for you personally and as a business owner. Because if you anything like me, you probably figured out, unless you have every single important area of your life firing on all cylinders, you still don't have success. Like, I've been rich and miserable. I've had seasons where my health was compromised, which made the money not so important all of a sudden. I had seasons where my marriage was challenged. The money ain't so important all of a sudden. But here's what I figured out, though. There is a world that exists that you can have your faith, your fitness, your finance, your freedom, and your family life firing on all cylinders. And if you don't want to be like the status quo and live a life at a level 3 and be mediocre, then I got just a place for you. It's called Believers in Business. It's a phenomenal community with like-minded individuals who all seek a level 10 life. And in there, you're going to get the tools, the resources to be able to excel in every one of those aspects of your life and in your business, as well as get business coaching to help you to continue to persist and grow your business so that you can have not only the financial success as a 6- and 7-figure entrepreneur, but that you can have holistic success. If that's you, click the link. I promise I'm out your way. Get back to the episode. So if you happen to be a real estate coach, for instance, that if you pass on this information to your students, to your clients, if you're concerned with them possibly surpassing you in whatever your accomplishments may be, I would venture to argue that one of my mentors says, if your coach don't have a coach, this shouldn't be your coach, right? So good coaches should be in a healthy ecosystem where they're submitted to somebody and then others are submitted to them. So the idea is that you should continue to evolve and those under you should continue to evolve. Whether or not they put more points on the board in said area, they buy more properties, they make more money doing the thing, to me is immaterial. It's about, are you evolving and outpacing who you were, not who they are. God is in control at who achieves what in this world, but you're in control of being invested in your evolution. And so the thing that I should be measuring should not be whether my students are catching me, although I should be aware of that. But the thing that I'm measuring is if I'm better than where they were when they found me. And if I'm not doing that, that's my fault. That got nothing to do with them. But the reason why I want wanted you to ask yourself this question as a coach, a potential coach. Are you okay with providing information to others that will put them in position to possibly surpass you one day? And I know for some, you probably like, B, that's a wild question, right? Like, who wouldn't be okay with that? Many people are not okay with that. Just think about it in corporate America. Think about your counterpart that is training you, who only trains you to a certain level. They feel as if you knew everything they knew, then you would probably be better than them and take their job and or position. This is nothing new. But at the very same time, if coaching is a calling and your heart posture is that you're concerned about those that you're called to surpassing you, then it ain't for you. You ain't ready yet. I'm not saying that it's not for you ever, but I'm saying that you're not ready yet. If you find yourself in a situation where the money is the biggest concern for you, you ain't ready yet. At the core of it, whoever you coaching and whatever you coaching should be something that you are willing to do for free. That don't mean that you do it for free, by the way. That's another video. But it means that you should be willing to do it for free. It means that if I'm gonna do a presentation, if I'm gonna do a podcast, that I'm not doing it because of how many people are gonna sign in and listen. All I needed was one that listened and it changed their life. I'm being obedient to my calling. Part of my calling is to help people monetize their messages, for people to discover their gifts and then to deploy them and to develop them. Discover, develop, and deploy their gifts into their purpose. That's part of my calling. To help 9-to-5ers who are making good money, maybe 6 figures plus, but still feel stuck because the more money they make, the more time that the employer takes. So they're still stuck in this cycle of the rat race, and they still having to go and spend excess money to anesthetize the life that they don't want instead of creating the one that they do. And I'm not excluding everybody else that don't make 6 figures. I just have a certain affinity for those that are, because I was in that situation. And that's what led me to be in the situation that I am in currently. I could have kept climbing that corporate ladder and I'd have been stuck there when there was a whole life outside of that context that I didn't know until I was willing to take the risk to find out. But some of you, not even making 6 figures a year in corporate, have still discovered that there's something more in you that you just haven't figured out how to get out of you. Welcome to the conversation. I want you here because you're right. It is something more that if you're willing to explore it, you can bring it out of you. And there's people waiting for you to do so. I know there's business owners who feel guilty about charging for their services. I'm here to help those people see things differently. Some don't even know how to price their services. How do we fix that? That's what I'm here to help. People that's after financial success, but not at the expense of everything else that's important to them. They want a level 10 life in every aspect, financially, in their family life, in their marital life, in their health, in their finances. Like they want a level 10 in all those aspects. That's why I'm here. But I don't get to establish a prerequisite of how many people get to hear my message. I just have the obedience and the commitment to getting the message out. We control the inputs, God controls the outputs. So we got to ask ourselves, are we willing to do this thing for free? If we're willing to do it for free, we're probably on to something. If we're willing to do it for free, then we should charge for it. If we would only do it because we're getting paid to do it, we probably shouldn't be doing it for others. Not from a coaching perspective. If you aren't willing to tell people the truth in love, if you are too concerned with being everybody's friend, then you're probably not going to be a good coach. You're not helping anybody by being dishonest with anybody. On the flip side of that, you also shouldn't be running around beating the hell out of everybody and killing their sense of self-worth, because you should be empowering and helping people to evolve as a coach. But you also can't lie and pacify and make things seem what they aren't, because you're not helping them progress. Good coaching is asking questions. Mentorship is giving answers. We should be asking questions of those that we're coaching to help them to think different and act independent of us in our absence. Mentorship can cause codependency because you're giving them all the answers instead of asking them questions to make them think differently. Coaching is asking questions, mentorship is giving answers. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't provide insights and answers to my coaching clients, but only after I've asked them some questions to get them to think about things differently, because the whole purpose is to empower them to think independent of me. They should maybe hear my voice in their head asking them another question, but they shouldn't always hear me giving them the answer. That's bad coaching. That's the antithesis of coaching. If you are constantly trying to avoid confrontation at any cost, probably not for you. See, what I figured out is that good coaching is counterintuitive. If everything that I recommend that you do, you already know and already feel comfortable with, then you already be doing it. So there's going to be some friction in the process of good coaching. There's going to be some confrontation in the process of discomfort. And if you're unwilling to step into that realm, you should probably stay where you are, because you're not really helping the people that you're serving. You're hurting them. You're only trying to make them feel good about everything instead of trying to make them be good at everything. So that's 4. If you're not willing to give it all away freely because you're scared to know if somebody, and you got to really search your heart on this, y'all. These are hard questions to ask. And there's no indictment against you, but it is to bring awareness so that you can evolve. You can grow in those areas. If you're not willing to share freely because you're worried about if somebody will surpass you, just let you know you're not where you need to be from a heart perspective right now at this very moment. You could work on that. If you wouldn't do it for free, then that's a good indicator that you ain't ready for that. If you aren't willing to tell the truth in love, then you're probably not ready yet. If you're always looking to avoid confrontation, it's probably not going to be really good, because that means you're telling them everything they want to hear instead of everything that they need to hear. And here's the last one. If you are unwilling to go beyond the scope of work of your contract or consultation agreement, probably not for you. Now, I can tell you, I am one of the biggest candidates and proponents for putting boundaries in your business. Early on, we used to do a lot of one-on-one coaching many years ago. Everybody had my number because when we have our one-on-one calls, that's what we would do. But the problem is that people don't have enough wherewithal much of the time to understand that that was only intended for that setting, not to continue to use that number outside of the time we designated to have that call. Big mistake. I thought because I understood and had that level of decorum and wherewithal that others did. Figured out they did. It's kind of hard for somebody not have your number after they have it. So we put mechanisms in place over time, and we made sure that we did Zoom calls. And my last admin, a couple admins ago, came into the bitch. She was like, "You crazy? Like, how long y'all been doing this?" You know what I mean? She was like, "Okay, no more." So we only did Zoom calls, right? And life has been much more peaceful in result of it. Certain tier clients have my number, and that's because they paid to have that level of access. But my point is, outside of setting boundaries, which they are healthy for both you and the client, there's going to be certain things that maybe there's a limitation on. For instance, maybe you only have bi-weekly calls. In one of our coaching programs for our business coaches and consultants, we have bi-weekly calls. Why? Because these individuals are running businesses and need 2 weeks in between calls to be able to go out and execute on the things that we're talking about on a high level. In one of our real estate mastermind, we have calls weekly. Why? Because many of these folks are 9-to-5ers transitioning to some form of business, real estate being the first one for them. They need a lot more touch points. So it's different frameworks depending on who you serving, how you serving, why you serving. Although we have these bi-weekly or weekly group coaching calls, there comes a point in time where they may need, due to a time-sensitive matter in a business or in a transaction, where they may need more help, and it's legitimate help. And so we have to make the decision at that point in time to still step in and help them, although it breaks the cadence and or the agreement that these are the deliverables that you get. Does that make sense? Again, you have to still pay attention to empirical data and watch those that may be abusing that right, and watch those that may be using it as an enabler instead of something to actually help fix the problem. And you have to watch these things and be conscious of it. But you also have to be open to the fact that people are going to need your help beyond the framework. You do your very best to establish a framework for how you want to run the business or the agreement. But then the whole purpose of why you're here is to help them succeed. And so you got to be willing to go beyond the scope of work to help them to succeed. And you legitimately need to ask yourself, are you willing to do that? It's just the way I do things. Okay. One of the things that I do is, for those that come into our masterminds, I talk to all of them personally. Why? Because if I'm going to be investing my time with you, I need to understand who you are as an individual, and is it worth me investing my time in you? And I know that may sound cavalier, but guess what? It's my business. I get to make the rules. If we're unequally yoked on things that are most important to me, ethically, morally, values, then I don't want to work with you. And I got that right not to, because I got to be willing, watch this, I got to be willing to be okay with not having to send you an invoice for anything I do above and beyond. I got to be okay with going above and beyond the scope of work when necessary. I got to be okay with the fact that I'll do this for free. But if every time I talk to you, you disturb me to a point where I'm like, I got to send you an invoice, then you shouldn't be a client of mine, because otherwise I would do it for free. That means that you bring out something that is not desirable for me. Guess what? But you somebody else's, somebody would love to coach you, just not me. And that's okay. And we got to be okay with that. I'm not for everybody, but I am for a specific group of somebody's though. That's what I mean by coaching is not a business, it's a calling that fits within the framework of a business. I'm called to help a certain group of people with certain sets of problems in my lifetime. That's part of my purpose. That's part of your purpose. And so as you go through this list that we talked about, if you find yourself being convicted about any of it, it's not here to indict you, but it is here to bring awareness to, before you go out here and make this commitment to become a coach, consider these things. Because otherwise, people are going to burn you out, you're going to be completely turned off, and you will go out of the business faster than you can. Or you will hurt and break people in the process. I hope this was helpful. I mean, I shared 5 things to ask yourself to determine if you shouldn't be a coach. Maybe we'll do another video and I ask you 5 more to affirm the things that you should be thinking about as a coach. As a matter of fact, if you want me to do that, leave something in the comments to let me know that this was helpful and you want me to flip it around and ask yourself some affirming questions for those of you that's like, okay, I got these covered, but I just been a little iffy still on whether or not I should be a coach. Yeah, let me know in the comments y'all want me to do that and if this was helpful. All right. Until next time, my friends, stick to the mission.